I've kept my fingers in there, and so I went on to start companies, and started a lot of companies, sold a lot of companies, invested in a lot of companies. So I've been in, you know, for the better part of my life in tech, and investing in tech companies and starting tech companies. And I've had 10 exits, and had $500 million of exits. So I've been pretty successful as a serial entrepreneur. And like everybody else, I was a little bit late to crypto. I mean, I was actually early, but never took it seriously. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013, but I had a really tech focus, where I just didn't think it was, it was really, I sort of felt like, this was going to be Bitcoin might be the MySpace to some future Facebook, or, I didn't understand what was so special about this Bitcoin. An institutional investor or just a client, guy with a Schwab account, doesn't matter, right? You take a normal investor, they are not going to open an account on either Bitfinex or Coinbase. I mean, yeah, some of them will. 98% of them will not, and
sure.
And even a much, much smaller amount are going to write down 12 words on and buy a hardware wallet and transfer a seed phrase to some internet device. Like, that is so far away from what normal people will do. They'll do it for, some fringe people will do it. Obviously, early adopters will do it.
Yeah.
But most people will not do it.
And they call crypto anarchists.
I mean, look, and it's just sort of like, I think, you look at most people like over that can be decentralized, right? So I just feel like to get to the next phase, what we need, which is also to get to the next phase in price, right? Like to get to $1 million of Bitcoin, the only way you're going to get to $1 million of Bitcoin is if you get, several $100 billion of new inflows to buy, right? If you do that, you are going to get to $1 million a coin, but you need to get these big inflows. These big inflows will not happen without the ETF. And it's just that simple. So, and that's why I think, that's sort of the ETF's the higher order bit, right? In right now, everything else is interesting. It's, but it's not the critical, it's not what's going to Bitcoin to an institutional investor, I think.
Yeah. So how do you think the ETFs will impact Bitcoin price, like kind of going forward in terms of the cycles? Because historically we've had these 4-year cycles that revolve obviously around the kind of the mining part of it and the block reward. I think also there's kind of an interesting argument to be made too, that maybe when Satoshi was designing the 4-year cycle, because why did he pick a 4-year cycle? Is it kind of lines up with US balance sheet expansion and these kind of debt cycles, which seems to work on a 4-year cycle?
Well,
but how do you think?
Kind of, but not. I mean, look, there's also like, if you look at some of the liquidity cycles, they tend to be actually a little longer than 4 years. They tend to be 5-year cycles, 60-month cycles, right? So they're roughly the same. It's roughly the same as the presidential cycle, but not really. Now to 225. I just don't think that's going to make much of a difference really going forward. I can't really imagine that that's going to be significant. I definitely think, especially when you have like, MicroStrategy buying 50,000 Bitcoin in like a weekend. You know what I mean? Like, that's 100 days worth of supply. BlackRock's buying, 1,000 Bitcoin or close to 1,000 Bitcoin in a day. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so these, we're definitely we're in a different zone where I think, I just don't think mining, it matters if you're a miner. I get it. If you're a miner, you absolutely care about the $50 billion is kind of how much the entire pool that TradFi can own. That's how much their exposure is. And this is a world that is, $150 trillion plus, right?
Yeah.
So their exposure really in net is
Tiny.
1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah.
So the amount, the wall of money that can and will probably come into this asset is it's 10x is still not even going to move the needle. I mean, it could get 10x as big,
Yeah, it's still
for $1
yeah.
trillion to come into Bitcoin is not crazy. It is just, we spent $2 trillion on the Biden infrastructure, like Build Back Better or whatever he called it, right? Like, what I'm saying is, this is after COVID too. So, $1 trillion in today's economy, in today's financial world, $1 trillion coming into Bitcoin, this administration actually starts taking control. That's a serious risk, right? This choke point 2.0 is absolutely very real, right?
Yeah.
So, these firms, were basically told in no uncertain terms, we don't want you promoting Bitcoin or crypto, any other crypto, right? We're putting it all in the same bucket. Do not encourage this stuff. If I were you, we're not. What are we going to do? We're not saying anything, but we just would prefer you didn't do that. Now, if you guys want to do it, you go right ahead. And I think people they get the memo, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good segue into, kind of the Trump administration and what they're proposing, because it looks like they're willing to be more friendly to Bitcoin and the industry. And what do you think that looks like? Do you think that's an end of choke point 2.0 that removes some of these obstacles for people like Goldman Sachs? Or do you think there's a possibility for a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
Added a bunch of, enforcement regimes over the last decade, which are bad. They're just bad, right? Like, this New York license, makes no sense. Like they give it out to like 5 companies. Like, people can't do business in New York because they can't get this license that takes 2 years to get or 4 years to get. So it's not only on the federal level, it's also on the state level. But if we're going to, I think cryptocurrencies in general could be a very, very good thing for our economy, right? Like they could make the economy more productive. They can make they could reduce friction, and we should encourage cryptocurrencies. I know no qualms about saying, look, I'm a pro dollar person, right?
Yeah.
But I think, if the U.S. is embarking on a, not a crash course, but something that's measured, a measured course for accumulating Bitcoin, deregulating and all, I think that's really positive for the dollar. Versus every other currency. That would be like, I'm an investor. Yeah, I like that. Okay, you're going pro business.
Yeah.
You're buying Bitcoin. You're going to be starting this. Like, I now sort of see a road, maybe not to getting out of debt, but to getting out of like a debt cycle. And it doesn't get you out of the woods, but maybe in 20 years you do this, and maybe you kind of are out of the woods. Maybe you're part of the way out. You're back to where you were in 1980. So it seems like this is not anti-strong dollar. You have, we're gonna have the reserve fund. We're gonna have so and so going. Well, the ETF happened this year, right? We're still completely within the power law, right?
Yeah.
ETF happened. We're in the power law. We didn't violate any power law by the ETF. Yeah. We've had good things that have happened. We've had bad things that have happened. But statistically, we're very much in the power law. And so, the way I look at this, and I'd say there's very low chance that we're going to be outside of this power law band in the next 10 years. Next 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. we could be into, things could change. There's sort of like, it's like looking at the growth of internet adoption, in
Yeah.
1999. Yeah, it has slowed down because at this point most people have internet.
Sure. That makes
So we
sense.
don't
Yeah.
we don't need to go how you can get involved in AI, and I put all your money
I
in
saw that.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think. It's sort of like you don't need to think about Bitcoin. It's just like your savings account. It
Yeah.
applies whether you have $1,000 to save or you have $100 million to save. It doesn't matter, right? It's equally good, right? It doesn't matter. But you shouldn't be overthinking it. You shouldn't be trying to diversify it too much. You just want to get on that train, right? You want to get on this Bitcoin train. Now, probably not a great idea to try to work in Bitcoin or like it's not really an occupation, right? And looking at Bitcoin price, like is not really an occupation either. Like I do it a lot. I'm on Spaces a lot, but like, listen, it's a luxury, right? I don't have to work, so I like kind of entertaining people and just getting on Spaces and posting on Twitter, and it's fun. But